Welcome to Uncloseted Conversations. Even if you stumbled upon this channel by accident, you are welcome here. The stories here are from my heart, from my soul, from my pen to your ears. I hope that you will stay a little longer and open yourself to the magic of storytelling. Here I write fiction, and though not always aligning with reality, it still tugs at heartstrings. Stories are escapes and sometimes a balm to the soul. So, enjoy your time here, and if reality presses down too loud and too hard, come knock at the door, come in, take a seat, grab a coffee, and just exhale. These are veil-bound stories, and the space is free and non-judgmental. Sit back, earphones or pods in, and let's listen to another exquisite romance. Wolves in Command. 2 women. 1 city. No one dares move without them. Chapter 1. On the Brink of Death. I don't know exactly when the gravity of her took hold. Maybe it wasn't a single moment, but a collection of them. The specific, grounding weight of her hand in mine, the way she tilted her head to catch the nuance in my voice, or the way she could inhabit a silence, filling the room with her presence until words felt like unnecessary clutter. Now, standing over this hospital bed, watching her fight for every shallow breath, the world has simply stopped. It's as if the axis snapped. All meaning has been vacuumed out of the room, leaving me hollow, a shell of the woman I was an hour ago. Around the bed, the doctors are a blur of white coats and hushed, frantic tones. Their voices sound like they're traveling through water, muffled, rhythmic, trying to shield me from a truth I can already see in the blue tint of her skin. I backed up until I felt the cold, unforgiving bite of the hospital wall against my spine. I pushed into it harder, needing the physical pain to anchor me to reality. My phone was a ghost in my pocket, vibrating with the life I'd just abandoned. The call had come in the middle of a high-stakes board meeting. I remember the confused, indignant faces of the directors when I stood up and simply walked out. I can still hear Martin's voice echoing down the hall behind me, shouting about plummeting stocks and panicked investors. Let it all burn. I would trade every line of code, every billion in the bank, and every skyscraper I own just to hear her laugh again. To see that spark in her eyes and feel the pulse in her palm against mine. Miss Sterling? We need to move her to the OR immediately. Please sign here. The doctor's voice was a drone, cutting through my paralysis. I looked down at the clipboard. My hands felt like they belonged to someone else, mechanical, calibrated, operating on a grim sort of autopilot. I signed the papers through a hot, blurred veil of tears, then stood frozen as they wheeled her out. The double doors swung shut, and the silence that followed was deafening. My knees finally gave out. I hit the floor with a dull thud, the linoleum cold against my skin. Time lost its shape. I don't know if minutes or hours passed before a hand gripped my arm, pulling me back toward the living. Vera? Vera, can you hear me? I looked up to find Sandy standing over me. My best friend's face was a mask of worry as she hauled me into a chair. Come on. Let's get some coffee, she urged. I tried to protest. My head kept snapping toward the corridor where Dion had disappeared, like if I look away too long, she'll vanish for good, but Sandy was firm. She led me to the waiting room and pressed a cardboard cup into my frozen hands. She looked so pale, Sandy, I stammered, my voice cracking like glass. Sandy didn't answer. She just guided the cup to my lips. The bitterness hit first, burnt and acidic, followed by a searing heat that forced me to focus. It didn't comfort me, but it numbed the sharpest edges of the panic. She's in the best hands, Sandy said, her voice a steady anchor. And the police are on him. They're chasing the truck that hit her. She held up her phone. The news was already live, a high-speed chase tearing down the highway. I watched the grainy footage in a daze, the sirens on the screen blending with the ringing in my ears. We are continuing to track the pursuit, the anchor's voice crackled. But we can now confirm the identity of the victim in the other vehicle. It is billionaire Dion Vance, fiancé of tech mogul Vera Sterling. Miss Vance is currently in surgery, Her condition remains critical. Sandy clicked the screen off. The silence returned, heavier than before. I set the cup down somewhere. I don't see where. My hands come up to my face, and the tears I've been holding back finally break free. And there it is. The truth I can't outrun. I am completely, utterly hers. Chapter 2. Grim Diagnosis. The heavy theater doors swung open with a pneumatic hiss. The surgeon emerged, peeling off his sweat-dampened theater cap, his face a map of exhaustion. I was on my feet before he could even look up, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. "Miss Sterling," he began, his voice professional but weary. "We managed to extract the bullet, but the trajectory was dangerously close to her heart. The next 24 hours are the precipice. We've placed her in a medically induced coma to minimize the strain on her system until we can assess the extent of the damage." My knees buckled. If it wasn't for Sandy's hands locking onto my shoulders, I would have hit the floor again. The words I needed, the demands for certainty, the technical questions evaporated. My brilliant, analytical mind had simply short-circuited. The words blur together. I latch onto one thing. "She's alive." "Can we see her?" Sandy asked for me, her voice the only steady thing in the room. The doctor gave a curt nod. "She's being moved to the ICU now. Give the staff 10 minutes to settle her." The walk down the hall felt like a mile of cold tile and fluorescent humming. We reached the intensive care unit just as the orderly wheeled the gurney through the double doors. I stopped at the glass observation panel, my breath hitching. Through the glass, Dion looked wrong. She was always so commanding, so vibrant, but now she looked terrifyingly small. A landscape of white sheets and plastic tubing. "She's a fighter, Vera," Sandy whispered, her grip tightening. "She's too stubborn to let this be the end. You know that." When the nurses finally signaled us to enter, my feet resisted. It felt like stepping into a sanctuary and a tomb all at once. I forced myself forward until I was standing at the edge of her bed. The silence of the room was punctuated by the rhythmic, artificial whoosh of the ventilator, a mechanical breath for a woman who had always been the most vital force I knew. The heart monitor chirped a steady, fragile rhythm. I reached out, my fingers trembling as they closed around hers. Her hand was ice cold, a stark contrast to the feverish heat of my own skin. Sandy slid a chair behind me and gently guided me down into it. She walked to the other side of the bed, leaning over the railing to whisper to the woman who couldn't hear us, or maybe she could. "You better come back, Dion. You promised me you'd look after her. Don't you dare break that contract." The afternoon light bled into a bruised purple outside the window. Somewhere in the distance, the low wail of sirens cut through the city, a reminder of the chaos we'd left behind. Sandy stood by the glass, her thumb scrolling through the latest news updates on her phone. She turned, a grim sort of satisfaction on her face. "They got him, Vera. The driver is in custody." I didn't even look up. I just squeezed Dion's hand, my thumb tracing the knuckles I knew so well. "Come back to me," I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. "Come back so you can teach that bastard a lesson yourself. You don't let anyone else have the last word." Sandy finally left around 9, promising to bring fresh clothes and actual food in the morning. I stayed. The nurses drifted in and out like ghosts, adjusting 4 drips and checking monitors. They worked around me with a quiet respect, perhaps recognizing that no force on earth could move me from that chair. Around dawn, the gray light started to creep across the floor. My eyelids were leaden, my head nodding toward the mattress. I rested my forehead against the back of her hand, the smell of antiseptic filling my senses. And then I felt it. A twitch. A faint, deliberate pressure against my palm. My head snapped up. My eyes searched hers, though they remained closed under the weight of the sedatives. "Dion? Baby, I'm here." She squeezed my hand once, weak, fleeting, but unmistakable. Then, She was still again. It was enough. It was everything. I leaned forward, pressing a lingering kiss to her forehead, the first real breath I'd taken in 24 hours finally leaving my lungs. "Just get strong," I whispered into the quiet. "I'm not going anywhere." Chapter 3. The Day I Saw Her. The Las Vegas Convention Center was a cavern of glass, steel, and predatory ambition. This wasn't just an exhibit, it was a battlefield for the world's elite. Thousands of investors and tech titans were prowling the aisles, but all eyes were on the center stage, Arctic Wolf Technologies. We were finally unveiling the Wolfe K7. 5 years of my life, 5 years of sleepless nights, discarded code, and billions in R&D were compressed into the sleek hardware sitting on that pedestal. The industry was holding its collective breath, waiting to see if I had truly built the future or just an expensive toy. I was hunched over a terminal, fine-tuning the MLOps implementation for the live demo, my fingers flying across the keys in a rhythmic trance. That's when I heard it. "Taking over the world, Miss Sterling? Or just rearranging it?" The voice was a low, melodic drawl that seemed to vibrate in the space between my shoulder blades. It was intoxicatingly calm, cutting through the roar of the convention floor like a razor through silk. I turned, and for a heartbeat, the entire room went silent. Dion Vance. To the public, a billionaire powerhouse. Behind closed doors, something far more dangerous. She was a legend whispered about in tones of both reverence and terror. No one spoke her name without her tacit consent, and no one crossed her twice. My eyes betrayed me, tracing her from head to toe before I could stop them. She was a vision of calculated perfection, a cream-colored suit paired with a shimmering silver waistcoat that caught the overhead LED lights. Her hair was pinned up in a mess that I knew for a fact took an hour to perfect, an effortless, alluring chaos. Then my eyes met hers. Dark gray pools of pure mystery, watching me with a look that suggested she knew exactly what I was thinking. "God, Vera, don't stare," I screamed at myself. Dion smirked, a slow, dangerous tilt of her head, one eyebrow lifted. She knew. She was doing this on purpose, enjoying the way my pulse was visibly jumping in my throat. I cleared my throat, the sound rasping in my ears. When I finally found my voice, it sounded far more breathless than I intended. "One day at a time, Ms. Vance. Though if I do take over the world, I'd eventually have to compete with you. And that seems ill-advised." She let out a soft, hummed sound, not quite a laugh, but something more intimate. She turned her gaze to my monitor, scanning the scrolling lines of the K7's core logic with an intensity that suggested she actually understood it. She turned back to me, her eyes locking onto mine with a sudden, searing focus. "Interesting," she purred. "I think I'll be seeing you very soon, Miss Sterling." Then she turned and walked away. I couldn't move. I just watched the way she moved through the crowd, people literally parting like the Red Sea to let her pass. "Jesus, Vera," I thought, my heart hammering. "You're one of the youngest tech billionaires on the planet. You own half of Las Vegas. And here you are, drooling over a woman who will break your heart into a million pieces and walk over the wreckage like it's just another Tuesday." I caught glimpses of her throughout the afternoon. I saw her commanding the attention of the Korean delegation. I saw her leaning in to whisper something to a group of young startup founders who looked like they were about to faint from the sheer proximity of her power. Around noon, she vanished. I scanned the floor, feeling an irrational sense of loss until my own presentation began at 2. The demo was a triumph. The Wolfe K7 performed flawlessly, capturing the audience's imagination and securing our spot at the top of the food chain. But even as I took my bow, I felt a familiar prickle on my skin. She was there, standing at the very back of the hall, hands buried in her pockets, her gray eyes tracking my every movement on stage. I stepped off the stage, my adrenaline spiking. I gave a few brief instructions to my VP, telling him I had a meeting across town, a lie. I just needed to breathe. As I made my way to the exit, I had to pass her. I didn't stop, but as our shoulders nearly brushed, I saw the corner of her lips curve into a tiny, knowing smile. I stepped out into the Vegas heat, into my waiting car. Already knowing. That moment had changed everything, my skin still buzzing from a touch that hadn't even happened yet. Chapter 4: The Long Road Back. The sunrise in the ICU doesn't arrive with warmth. It arrives as a cold, gray sharpening of the shadows. The monitors seem to glow brighter against the dim light, their rhythmic beeping a constant, mechanical heartbeat that had become the only clock I followed. I hadn't moved from the chair. My suit was wrinkled, my skin felt tight with dried salt from tears I didn't remember shedding, and my mind was a fractured mess of code and prayers. I watched the dust motes dancing in a single sliver of light that cut across the foot of Dion's bed. "Come on, love," I whispered, my voice a dry rasp. "The world is waking up. You don't stay in the dark. It's not your style. Dion Vance doesn't belong in fragility. She belongs in control. In command. In rooms where people hold their breath when she walks in. Not here. Not like this." I brush my thumb over her knuckles, slow, careful. "Do you remember," I murmur, my voice barely more than breath, "the first time you actually spoke to me properly?" A small, broken smile touches my lips. "Not the convention. No, that doesn't count. You were playing with me. Always were." I shift slightly in the chair, leaning closer, my forehead almost touching her hand. It was the rooftop. The memory lingers at the edge of me, warm and dangerous. "You showed up like you own the sky." My fingers tighten around hers. "And I hated how easily you got under my skin." The heart monitor beeps steadily, indifferent to the war inside my chest. "You didn't even try," I whisper. "That's the worst part." A pause. The silence stretches. Then softer. "You just were." I swallow hard, my throat tightening. "You don't get to leave like this, Dion. No dramatic exits. No disappearing acts." My voice cracks, just slightly. "You started something, with me." A tear slips free before I can stop it. "You don't get to walk away before I understand what it is." Suddenly, the steady rhythm of the room fractured. The ventilator, that rhythmic whoosh hiss, stuttered. The heart monitor's pitch spiked, jumping from a resting 60 to a frantic 90. I was on my feet instantly, my hands hovering over hers, afraid to touch and afraid to let go. Dion's eyelids flickered. Not the soft flutter of someone waking from a dream, but a violent, strained twitch. Beneath the thin skin of her neck, I could see her pulse racing. She was fighting. She was trapped in the chemical fog of the sedatives, trying to claw her way back to the surface. "Nurse," I called out, my voice cracking. A nurse hurried in, her eyes immediately darting to the monitors. "She's fighting the vent, Miss Sterling." It's a good sign, but it's going to be distressing to watch. Watching was an understatement. It was agony. Dion's head thrashed slightly to the side, a muffled, guttural sound catching in her throat against the plastic tubing. Her brow furrowed, a deep line of concentration and pain forming between her eyes. I leaned over the railing, getting as close to her ear as the machinery allowed. "Dion, listen to my voice. It's Vera. You're safe. Breathe with the machine, baby. Don't fight it, just let it help you." I took her hand in both of mine, squeezing with a firm, grounding pressure. Her eyes snapped open. They weren't the clear, piercing gray pools from the Las Vegas Convention Center. They were bloodshot, clouded with confusion and a raw, primal fear. She looked at me, but for a second, I didn't think she saw me. She looked through me, her pupils blown wide. Then, the focus snapped in. The recognition hit her like a physical blow. Her fingers clamped down on mine with surprising, bruising strength. She couldn't speak, the tube made sure of that, but Dion Vance didn't need words to command a room. Even in a hospital gown, covered in sensors, her eyes burned with a sudden, fierce intelligence. She looked at the tube, then back at me, her gaze demanding an explanation, demanding an exit. "You're in the hospital," I said, my voice trembling as I smoothed a stray hair from her forehead. "There was an accident. A shooting. But you're okay. I'm right here. I'm not leaving." The tension in her body didn't fully dissipate, but the frantic spiking of the monitor began to level out. She held my gaze, her grip on my hand never wavering. In that moment, the tech mogul and the elusive billionaire were gone. There was just a woman terrified of her own weakness, and the woman who would do anything to shield her from it. The nurse moved in to adjust the sedation, but I blocked her path for a split second. "She's awake. Don't put her back under." "Not yet." Dion's eyes drifted shut again, the exhaustion of the effort claiming her, but before she slipped away, she gave my hand one last, intentional squeeze. The sun finally hit the floor, golden and bright. She was back. And God help whoever had tried to take her away. Chapter 5. The Rooftop Where It Began. Las Vegas doesn't sleep. It glows. And from the rooftop of the Halcyon Tower, the city looked like it was on fire, gold and neon stretching endlessly into the night. I shouldn't have been there. The event downstairs was still in full swing. Investors. Deals. Power plays wrapped in expensive suits and curated smiles. But I needed air. Needed distance. Needed quiet. I leaned against the railing, loosening my tie, letting the night wrap around me. "Running away from your own party?" That voice. I didn't turn immediately. Didn't give her the satisfaction. "Strategic retreat," I replied coolly. "There's a difference." A soft chuckle drifted closer. "And here I thought you were fearless, Vera Sterling." Now I turned. Dion stood a few steps away, a glass of something dark in her hand, city lights dancing across her face like they belonged to her. She moved closer, unhurried. Everything about her was unhurried, like time adjusted itself around her presence. "I don't waste fear on things that don't matter," I said. Her eyes flickered. "Interest. Dangerous interest." "And what does matter?" she asked, her voice dipping just enough to pull me in. I held her gaze. Control. The corner of her lips curved. "Of course it does." She stepped beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of her, but not touching. "Not yet." We stood there, side by side, looking out over the city. Silence settled between us. Not empty. Not awkward. Just full. "You're different than I expected," she said after a moment. I glanced at her. Disappointed. Her eyes slid to mine. Slow. Intentional. Not even a little. Something shifted. Subtle. But undeniable. I turned fully toward her now. "And you?" I asked. "Are you everything they say you are?" Her smile deepened, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Depends who you ask." "I'm asking you." A beat. She stepped closer. Now there was no space between us. "Careful, Vera," she murmured. "You might not like the answer." My pulse betrayed me, quickening under her gaze. "Try me." Her eyes dropped briefly to my lips. Then back up. "A challenge. A promise. A woman like me," she said softly, "doesn't come without consequences." There it was. The warning. Clear. Unapologetic. I should have stepped back. Should have laughed it off. Should have walked away and kept my world clean, controlled, untouched. Instead, I've never been afraid of a little damage. Her breath hitched. Just slightly. But I caught it. And for the first time, Dion Vance looked at me like I wasn't something she could easily walk away from. "Good," she whispered. Then she lifted her glass, took a slow sip, and stepped back. Just like that. Distance restored. Control reclaimed. "I'll see you around, Vera." And she left me there. standing under a burning sky. Already too far gone. Chapter 6. The shape of something wrong. The hospital corridor feels longer on the way back. Or maybe it's just me. Every step echoes too loudly, like the building is listening. Watching. Waiting. Sandy walks beside me, saying something about food, about rest, about how I need to keep it together, but her words slide past me, unable to stick. Because something is already pulling at me. A thread. Thin. Invisible. Wrong. I'll grab us something from the vending machine, Sandy says as we near the ICU doors. I nod, barely hearing her. My hand presses against the door. Cold. I push it open. And the world tilts. The room is the same. Same machines. Same light. Same steady beep, beep, beep. But no, something's not right. My chest tightens as I step inside, slow, cautious, like I've walked into a room that doesn't belong to me anymore. Dion lies exactly where I left her. Unmoving. Silent. But the air feels disturbed. Like a conversation just ended seconds before I walked in. My gaze sharpens, scanning everything. The 4-line. The monitors. The ventilator. All normal. All untouched. And yet, I move closer to the bed, my pulse picking up. Dion? Nothing. I swallow, reaching for her hand again. Still cold. Still too still. But as I lace my fingers with hers, something prickles at the back of my neck. A presence. Not physical, but recent. My eyes shift. There. The chair. It's not where I left it. It's angled slightly differently. Subtle. Easy to miss. But I notice. I always notice. My grip tightens around her hand. Sandy? I call, my voice low but edged now. No answer. Of course not. She's not back yet. I step away from the bed, slowly turning, my eyes sweeping the room again. And then I see it. The tray. One of the surgical trays near the wall. A pair of gloves. Used. Discarded carelessly, like whoever wore them didn't expect to be interrupted. My stomach drops. No nurse would leave them like that. No doctor either. Everything in here is precision. Protocol. Clean lines and controlled movements. This is sloppy. My heart starts to pound now, heavy and loud in my ears. I move toward the tray, each step measured. There's a faint mark on the metal surface. A smear. Not blood. Something clearer. Liquid. My mind races. Adrenaline cutting through the fog of exhaustion. I turn sharply back to Dion, my eyes snapping to the 4-line. Following it. Tracing it. And then. There. A second injection port. Tiny. Almost invisible. But fresh. Recently used. My breath catches. No. I'm at her side in an instant, my hands hovering, afraid to touch, afraid not to. What did they do to you? The monitor beeps steadily, betraying nothing. Too steady. Too perfect. My chest tightens. Hey, HY. The word tears out of me, sharp, breaking the silence. A nurse rushes in seconds later, startled. Ma'am. Who is in here? I demand, my voice cutting, controlled but shaking underneath. Who touched her? The nurse blinks, confused. No one. Don't lie to me. I snap, stepping toward her. That line was accessed. Those gloves weren't there. Someone was in this room. The nurse looks from me to Dion, uncertainty creeping into her expression. I'll call the doctor. Do that, I say coldly. And security. The nurse hurries out. Silence crashes back in. I turn to Dion again, my hand finding hers, gripping tighter now. Stay with me, I whisper, my voice dropping, fierce and trembling all at once. You don't get taken out by some coward in a hospital room. Not after everything. My eyes flick once more around the room. The shifted chair. The discarded gloves. The fresh mark on the line. This wasn't random. This wasn't a mistake. Someone came here. And they didn't come to help her. I lean closer, my forehead nearly touching hers, my voice dropping into something darker. Whoever touched you. My grip tightens around her hand. Just made a very big mistake. Outside, I hear footsteps. Voices rising. The beginning of movement. Too late. The damage. I glance back at the four. At the quiet, steady machine keeping her alive. Or whatever was done. It's already inside her. And now, we wait to see what it does. Chapter 7. When machines start lying. The first change is almost polite. A subtle shift in the rhythm. Beep, 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 beep. I feel it before I understand it. My fingers tighten around Dion's hand as my eyes snap to the monitor. Hey, no, I murmur, stepping closer. The line flickers. Her heart rate dips. Climbs. Hesitates. Like it's trying to remember how to exist. The door bursts open as the doctor and two nurses rush in, their calm already cracking at the edges. What happened? He demands. I told you, someone was in here, I shoot back, stepping aside but not letting go of her. The doctor's eyes flick to the four-line. He sees it. That's all it takes. Check the line. Now. The room explodes into motion. Gloves snapping on. Machines beeping louder. Commands flying in sharp bursts. Pressure dropping. Heart rate unstable. What was administered? No one answers. Because no one knows. I feel my pulse in my throat, my chest, my fingertips. Dion, I whisper, leaning closer as they work around her. You fight, you hear me? You don't get to leave me in a room full of strangers making decisions for you. The ventilator hisses. The monitor spikes. Then dips again. Stabilize her, the doctor snaps. A syringe. A flush. Adjustments to the four. Seconds stretch into something unbearable. And then, the line steadies. Not perfect. But, holding, the room exhales as one. Vitals are responding, a nurse says, relief threading through her voice. The doctor nods once, sharp. Run talk screens. Full panel. I want to know exactly what was introduced into her system. He turns to me then, his expression shifting. Serious. Controlled. But no longer distant. You were right, he says. Someone accessed her line. I let out a slow breath, but there's no relief in it. Only confirmation. Can you fix it? I ask. A beat. We'll do everything we can. Not good enough. Not nearly good enough. Chapter 8. Eyes in the dark. The hospital tightens after that. Security at the doors. Nurses moving faster. Voices lower. But it's already too late. The line was crossed. And whoever did it is gone. I stand just outside the ICU now, watching through the glass as they monitor her more closely than before. Machines adjusted. New lines checked. Every detail under scrutiny. Sandy returns, breathless. What happened? Someone tried to finish what the crash didn't, I say flatly. Her face drains of color. You're serious. I don't do drama, Sandy. A beat. Not like this. She glances through the glass, then back at me. Do you think it's the same people? I don't think anything, I reply, my voice dropping. I know this wasn't random. My phone vibrates in my hand. Unknown number. I hesitate for half a second, then answer. Sterling. Silence. Then, a breath. Slow. Measured. Watching. You should have let her go, a voice says, distorted, stripped of identity. Would have been kinder. Every muscle in my body goes still. Who is this? I ask, already knowing I won't get an answer. A soft, almost amused exhale. You're out of your depth. The line goes dead. I lower the phone slowly, my grip tightening until my knuckles pale. Sandy's watching me now. Who is that? I look back at the ICU. At Dion. At the fragile line between here and gone. Someone who just made this personal. Chapter 9. Calling the Wolves. I don't hesitate this time. I step away from the glass, already dialing. It rings once. Twice. Then. Talk. The voice on the other end is calm. Controlled. Dangerous in a way that doesn't need to prove itself. Good. I need to speak to the gatekeeper. I say, remembering she told me months ago, should anything ever happen, to call the number and say that. A pause. Who's asking? Vera Sterling. Another pause. Heavier this time. Then. Hold. The line clicks. Seconds pass. Then a new voice comes on. Lower. Sharper. Miss Sterling. Not a question. A recognition. Someone accessed her in ICU, I say without preamble. Injected something into her line. We don't know what yet. And I just got a call, telling me I should have let her die. Silence. Cold. Calculating silence. Location, the voice says. I give it. No hesitation. No one touches her again, I add, my tone cutting clean through the line. I don't care what it takes. A quiet exhale. You won't have to. The line disconnects. Just like that. No reassurances. No questions. Just action. I slip the phone back into my pocket. Sandy raises an eyebrow. That didn't sound like hospital security. It's not. We don't wait long. 10 minutes, maybe less. Then the atmosphere shifts. Not louder. Not obvious. But heavier. 3 men walk down the corridor like they belong to something older than rules. Sharp suits. Sharper eyes. They don't ask for permission. They don't slow down. The nurse at the desk starts to speak, then stops. Because even she feels it. The lead steps up to me. Dark eyes. Unreadable. Miss Sterling. I nod once. Room's been compromised, I say. Someone already got in. His gaze flicks to the ICU doors. Then back to me. Not again. It's not a promise. It's a verdict. He gestures once. The other 2 move immediately. One takes position at the entrance. The other checks the perimeter with quiet precision. The lead steps closer to me, lowering his voice. You stay close to her, he says. Anyone comes near that shouldn't. We handle it. I hold his gaze. No fear. Just fire. Good, I reply. Because if they get past you. My voice drops, something colder settling in. They'll have to deal with me. For a fraction of a second. He almost smiles. Then he turns, already coordinating something through a low murmur into his earpiece. I look back through the glass. At Dion. At the machines still breathing for her. At the war that just stepped into the room without knocking. Hold on, I whisper, my fingers brushing the glass like I could reach her through it. Your world just woke up. A pause. My jaw tightens. And mine is about to burn for you. Chapter 10. The Woman Who Doesn't Fall. Darkness isn't empty. It hums. Low. Constant. Like something waiting. I drift through it, weightless, untethered, suspended in a place that doesn't ask me to fight. But something pulls. A thread. Familiar. Warm. Vera. The name isn't a word. It's a feeling. A tether in the dark, tightening, refusing to let me disappear. Voices ripple through the void. Muffled. Distorted. Unstable. Responding. What was administered? Noise. Irrelevant. I try to move. Nothing answers. No limbs. No breath. No body. Just awareness. And then, something else. A shift. Not inside me. Outside. The kind of shift you learn to recognize when you've lived a life like mine. Presence. Uninvited. Danger. Even here, wherever here is. I feel it. And instinct does what it always does. It sharpens. Chapter 11. The weight of her name. The ICU doesn't feel like a hospital anymore. It feels like territory. Claimed. Held. Watched. I stand just inside the room now, one of the men stationed by the door, another near the window, The third somewhere behind me. I don't need to look at to know he's there. Sandy sits quietly in the corner, unusually still, like she understands, without understanding, that the rules have changed. I look down at Dion. At the woman who somehow turned a city into something that bends instead of breaks. You didn't tell me, I murmur softly, brushing a strand of hair away from her face. Not really. A quiet exhale leaves me. I knew you were powerful. I didn't know you were this. Behind me, the lead guard speaks. You weren't supposed to. I glance back at him. He hasn't moved, but his presence fills the space like a loaded weapon resting on the table. Then enlighten me, I say. Because someone just tried to kill her twice, and I don't like being the only one in the room without all the information. A pause. Measured. Then, Miss Vance doesn't run a syndicate, he says calmly. She doesn't deal in petty crime or street-level operations. His eyes flick briefly to Dion. She owns the infrastructure that those people rely on. My brow furrows slightly. He continues. Shipping routes. Private security contracts. Logistics chains. Data pipelines. Half the city's movement passes through systems she either built or controls. Sandy lets out a quiet breath. So, what, she's like some kind of corporate queen pin? The man doesn't even look at her. She's what happens when power stops needing permission. Silence settles heavy after that. I turn back to Dion slowly. Pieces clicking into place. The way people watched her at the convention. The way rooms shifted when she entered. The way she never explained anything, but always knew everything. And enemies? I ask quietly. A faint pause. Anyone who mistakes her for something they can remove. My jaw tightens. Well, I murmur, my fingers curling gently around Dion's hand again. They just made that mistake. Chapter 12. The Second Breach. It happens fast. Too fast. One of the monitors spikes, sharp, aggressive. The steady rhythm fractures. Vitals are shifting again. A nurse calls from outside. But that's not what sets me off. It's the guard at the door. He straightens. Subtle, but immediate. His hand lifts slightly, 2 fingers brushing his earpiece. Repeat that, he says under his breath. The room stills. Every instinct in me snaps awake. What is it? I demand. He doesn't answer right away. Then, security breach, he says quietly. Lower level. Someone just forced access through a restricted entrance. Sandy freezes. You're kidding. I never kid. The second guard moves instantly, stepping into the hallway, already coordinating. The third shifts position closer to the bed. Closer to her. Protective. Calculated. My pulse spikes. They're coming here? I ask. Unknown, the lead replies. But we don't assume coincidence. Of course not. Not after the 4. Not after the call. Not after the warning. The monitor beeps faster now. Erratic. Like her body feels it too. I lean closer to Dion, my voice dropping, urgent. Hey, stay with me. You hear that? I whisper. Your people are already scaring the hell out of mine. You don't get to check out now. The ventilator hisses. The line jumps. Doctor, a nurse shouts. Footsteps rush closer. Chaos starts to bloom again. And right in the middle of it, the guard's voice cuts through, low and lethal. They're not getting to her. Not a reassurance. A fact. I look up at him. Something fierce settles in my chest. Good, I say quietly. Then I glance back at Dion, brushing my thumb over her hand. Because if they do, my voice softens, but it carries something sharper underneath. They won't be the only ones who regret it. The lights flicker once. Just once. But it's enough. The entire room tightens. And, somewhere in the building, something moves closer. Chapter 13. Blood doesn't mean loyalty. The lights steady. The chaos doesn't. Footsteps pound down the corridor outside, too fast, too uncontrolled to be hospital staff. The guard at the door shifts instantly. Gun drawn. Clean. Silent. Certain. Stay behind me, he says. I don't move. I won't. The ICU doors slam open. And, for a split second, time fractures. Because the man standing there doesn't look like an outsider. He looks like he belongs. Same sharp tailoring. Same controlled presence. Same quiet violence wrapped in composure. But his eyes, they burn wrong. Step away from her, the guard says calmly. The man smiles. Not nervous. Not rushed. Amused. Well, he drawls, stepping inside like he's walking into his own office. This is a little more dramatic than I expected. Sandy sucks in a breath behind me. I don't look away from him. You're not hospital staff, I say flatly. His gaze slides to me. Curious. Assessing. And you must be Vera Sterling, he says softly. I was wondering when I'd meet the woman she suddenly decided was worth everything. My stomach twists. You're the one who called. A small tilt of his head. Guilty. The guard steps forward, weapon steady. You're not authorized to be here. Leave. Now. The man sighs lightly, like this is all terribly inconvenient. I'm family, he says. Silence drops like a blade. I feel it. The shift. Even the guards feel it. Family doesn't do this, I snap, anger finally breaking through. His smile fades just enough to show something colder underneath. You don't understand family, he says quietly. Not ours. His eyes flick to Dion. Something dark passes through them. She was never supposed to care, he continues. That's where she went wrong. My hand tightens around hers. You tried to kill her. I tried to correct a weakness. The words hit like ice water. Before I can respond, the guard moves fast, precise. Gun trained directly at his chest. Last warning. The man doesn't flinch. Instead, he leans slightly, as if studying Dion more closely. She always did like to test limits, he murmurs. Push too far. Trust the wrong people. His gaze snaps back to me. And now, she pays for it. Something inside me snaps. You don't get to stand there and talk about her like that, I say, my voice low, shaking with something far more dangerous than fear. You don't get to decide what she deserves. For a moment, he studies me. Really studies me. Then, a slow, knowing smile. He breathes. So, it's real. The guard steps closer. On your knees. Now. And just like that, the moment breaks. The man lifts his hands slightly. Not surrender. Calculation. You should keep her close, he says to me, almost gently now. If she wakes up, she's going to need something soft to hold onto. My stomach turns. Then his eyes darken again. Because the moment she stands up, a pause. A promise. This city is going to bleed. Before anything else can happen, more security floods the corridor. Hospital. Armed. Overwhelmed. He doesn't resist as they take him. Why would he? He already did what he came to do. And as they drag him out, his gaze finds mine one last time. Calm. Certain. Like this isn't over. Not even close. Chapter 14. The war beneath her skin. Darkness shifts. Not quiet anymore. Not still. It fractures. Cracks spreading through something unseen. I feel it. The disturbance. The intrusion. And beneath it, rage. Cold. Focused. Rising. Images flicker. Not clear. Not whole. But enough. A face. Familiar. Unwelcome. Him. The realization cuts through the void like a blade. Betrayal. Not random. Not external. Blood. Something inside me coils. Tightens. No. This is not how it ends. Not like this. Not by his hand. The darkness presses in, trying to pull me under again. But I push back. Not with strength. Not yet. With will. With memory. With her. Vera. Her voice echoes faintly, threading through the chaos. Stay with me. The words wrap around me, anchor me. And for the first time, I fight. Not drifting. Not waiting. Fighting. The darkness resists. Of course it does. But it made one mistake. It let me remember. And I don't lose. Chapter 15. Stepping into her world. The hospital isn't enough anymore. I know it the moment they take him away. I find out he is a cousin. The betrayal. The warning. This doesn't end here. It starts here. I step out into the corridor, the lead guard falling into place beside me like a shadow with purpose. I want everything, I say. He doesn't ask what I mean. Then you'll come with me. Sandy grabs my arm. Vera, wait. Where are you going? I look back at her. At the life I had, just hours ago. Boardrooms. Deals. Control. Small things. I'm going to make sure she has something to come back to, I say quietly. Then I turn. And walk. The building we entered doesn't exist on any map I've seen. No signage. No noise. No unnecessary movement. But inside, power hums. Not loud. Not showy. Just absolute. People move with purpose. Screens flicker with data I can immediately place. Conversations stop the second I pass. Not out of curiosity. Out of recognition. Respect. Fear. The guard leads me through it all without hesitation. Doors open before we reach them. Paths clear. And slowly. It hits me. This isn't just influence. This isn't just wealth. This is infrastructure. Control at a level I've never touched. I built an empire. Dion built the system my empire runs on. We stop in a room lined with screens. Live feeds. Traffic. Ports. Financial flows. Security grids. The city, mapped like a living organism. And she sits at the center of it all. Or she did. Until now. I step forward slowly, taking it in. Every inch of it. Every layer. Every hidden current beneath the surface world I thought I dominated. A quiet breath leaves me. Half awe. Half realization. I thought I understood power, I murmur. The guard glances at me. You understood your part of it. My eyes move across the screens again. Then settle. Harden. Not anymore. I turn to face him fully. Something in me has shifted. Not broken. Reforged. If she wakes up to a war, I say, my voice steady now, grounded in something new, something sharper. Then she's not walking into it alone. A beat. The guard studies me. Measuring. Weighing. Then. A single nod. Not approval. Acceptance. Then we start now. Back in the hospital. A machine beeps. Steady. Strong. And, for just a second, Dion's fingers twitch again. Chapter 16. The Woman Who Woke Up Angry. The first sign isn't the machines. It's the silence. A strange, suspended kind of quiet, like the room is holding its breath. Then, her fingers move. Not a twitch. A grip. Firm. Deliberate. Mine. My head snaps up so fast it nearly spins. Dion? Her eyes open. Not slowly. Not groggy. Sharp. Focused. Alive. And wrong. There's no softness there. No confusion. No fragile return from the edge. Just awareness. And something darker simmering beneath it. The ventilator is still in place, but her gaze locks onto mine with terrifying clarity. Recognition hits instantly. Good. But what follows isn't relief. Her eyes flick once to the guards, to the room, to the door, assessing, calculating, then back to me. Alive. That's what matters. Everything else can wait. Hey, easy, I murmur, my voice softer than I feel. You're safe. Her eyes don't believe me. Of course they don't. She tries to move. The machines protest immediately. Alarms spike. Don't do that, I say quickly, stepping closer. You're still. Her hand tightens around mine. Hard enough to hurt. A message. Enough. The door bursts open as doctors rush in. Miss Vance, you need to remain still. They don't get to finish. Because even half-broken, barely conscious, hooked to machines, Dion Vance owns the room. Her gaze slices to the doctor. Cold. Commanding. And, just like that, he stops talking. Not out of fear. Out of instinct. She shifts slightly, ignoring the pain. Her focus returns to me. A question in her eyes. Sharp. Demanding. I understand it instantly. Your cousin, I say quietly. He's the one who did this. No hesitation. No cushioning. Her expression doesn't change. But something behind her eyes ignites. Good. Let it burn. They have him in custody, I continue. He tried to access your line. He called me. He said. I stop myself. Her grip tightens again. Say it. I exhale slowly. He said you caring was your weakness. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. For a second, nothing. Then a slow blink. Measured. Controlled. And beneath it, rage so precise it doesn't need to show. She releases my hand just enough to shift her fingers. 2 taps against my skin. A rhythm. Intentional. It takes me a second, then I catch it. A code. Not words. Not spoken. But clear. Not weakness. My breath catches. Of course. Of course it isn't. It never was. Her eyes hold mine. Steady. Unyielding. And in that moment, I understand something terrifying. Dion didn't survive. She woke up ready. Chapter 17. The line you don't come back from. Power teaches you restraint. War teaches you when to let it go. I stand in a room far removed from the hospital now. Concrete walls. Dim lighting. No names. No records. The kind of place where decisions are made and never spoken about again. Across from me, they wait. Not soldiers in uniform. Not official. Better. Men and women shaped by conflicts that never made headlines. Eyes that don't flinch. Hands that don't hesitate. The kind of people you don't hire unless you've already decided the rules don't apply anymore. One of them leans back slightly, studying me. You're sure about this? He asks. No judgment. Just fact. Once this starts, it doesn't stop clean. I think of Dion. Of her eyes when she woke. Of the fire underneath the stillness. Of the way she didn't ask if she'd been betrayed. She already knew. I'm not asking for permission, I say evenly. I'm asking for results. A faint smile ghosts across his lips. Fair enough. He leans forward, elbows on his knees. Targets. I slide a file across the table. Names. Locations. Connections. Everything I could pull from what little I've been given access to. But it's not enough. Not yet. Start with him, I say. The cousin. I want everything he's connected to. Anyone who moved with him, funded him, covered for him. And after that, my jaw tightens. There it is. The edge. The moment where you either step back or step over. I don't hesitate. Dismantle it, I say quietly. A pause. Even they feel it. Define dismantle. I meet his gaze. Cold. Certain. Break the network. Strip the protection. Burn the routes he relies on. A beat. No warnings. Silence settles. Heavy. Permanent. Then, a slow nod. It'll get messy. I don't care. It'll get loud. Good. His smile returns, sharper now. You're not like the other corporate types. No, I reply softly. I'm not. Because the woman who walked into this room is not the same one who sat beside that hospital bed. That woman was waiting. This one is done waiting. Then we move tonight, he says. I stand, smoothing down my jacket, the weight of what I've just set in motion settling into my bones. There's no going back from this. No clean exit. No version of me that returns untouched. Good. I don't want to be untouched. I turn toward the door, then pause. One more thing. They look up. If anyone gets close to her again. My voice drops. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just absolute. They don't get a second chance. A beat. Then. Understood. I walk out. And somewhere across the city, lines begin to shift. Quietly. Violently. I step into the night, the air colder than before, sharper against my skin. For a moment, I look up at the skyline. At the empire I thought was everything. And I almost laugh. Because now I see it. How small it really was. How small I was. Compared to her. Compared to the world she holds in place without ever raising her voice. Hold on, I murmur into the dark. I'm catching up. Back in the hospital. Dion's eyes remain open. Watching. Waiting. And somewhere deep inside her, the war has already begun. Chapter 18, When Fire Meets Fire. The room is quieter now. Not peaceful. Never that. Just stripped down. Like everything unnecessary has been pushed out, leaving only what matters. Her. Me. And the truth waiting between us. The ventilator is gone. The silence it leaves behind feels heavier than the machine ever did. Dion lies propped slightly against the pillows, her skin still too pale, her strength still rebuilding, but there's nothing weak about the way she holds herself. Nothing uncertain. Her eyes track me the moment I step fully into the room. Sharp. Demanding. Awake. Fully awake. I close the door behind me, the soft click echoing louder than it should. For a second, we just look at each other. No machines interrupting. No doctors hovering. No distance left to hide behind. Her voice, when it comes, is rough. Worn raw. But steady. What happened? No softness. No hesitation. Just a demand for truth. I step closer, slower than I feel. You were in a crash, I say. High speed. They said it wasn't an accident. Her gaze doesn't flicker. Of course it doesn't. And the hospital? She presses, her voice scraping slightly, but stronger now. I exhale through my nose. Someone accessed your 4. Tried to finish it. There. No dressing it up. Her jaw tightens. A flicker of something dark moves through her eyes. Who? One word. Sharp as glass. Your cousin. Silence. But not empty. Loaded. Her head tilts slightly, like she's fitting the pieces together. Not surprised. Not shocked. Just confirming what she already suspected. He's alive, she asks. There it is. Not why. Not how. Alive. Yes, I say. For now. Her eyes lift to mine fully. And something in the air shifts. You should have killed him, she says. Flat. Certain. Like stating a fact. It lands heavy. But I don't flinch. Maybe, I reply quietly. But that's not how I do things. A beat. Her gaze sharpens. Then how do you do things, Vera? There's something underneath the question. Testing. Probing. Measuring. And this. This is where everything changes. I step closer to the bed. Close enough now that there's no space left for pretense. You tell me, I say softly. Because I just stepped into your world, and it doesn't run on boardroom decisions. Her eyes flicker. Interest. Danger. Explain, she says. I hold her gaze. Steady. Unyielding. I found out who you really are, I continue. What you control. The systems. The networks. The people. A pause. I saw it. Her expression doesn't soften. But it shifts. Just slightly. And, she asks. I inhale slowly. Then. I made a move. There. No going back now. Her eyes darken. Not anger. Not yet. Something sharper. What kind of move? She asks, her voice quieter now, but far more dangerous. I don't look away. I hired people, I say. The kind that don't ask questions. The kind that don't wait for permission. A long pause. The room feels smaller suddenly. Like the walls are leaning in to listen. To do what? She presses. And there it is. The line. The one I crossed. The one I don't regret. Dismantle him, I say. His network. His protection. Everything tied to him. Her breath stills. Just for a second. Then resumes. Slow. Controlled. You started a war, she says. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just truth. Yes. Silence stretches between us. Thick. Electric. Unforgiving. Then, she shifts slightly, wincing just enough to remind me her body hasn't caught up to her will. But her eyes never leave mine. You don't understand what you just stepped into, she says, her voice low, hoarse, but cutting straight through me. I do, I counter. No, she replies immediately. You understand the surface. You don't understand the cost. A beat. Then, softer. You don't understand what it will take from you. Something in my chest tightens. But I don't step back. I don't care, I say quietly. Her gaze sharpens again. You will. I take another step closer. Close enough now that I can see the faint strain in her breathing, the tension she's holding back. Maybe, I admit. But I wasn't going to stand there and wait while someone tries to kill you again. Her eyes flicker. Just slightly. You don't get to make decisions like that for me, she says. There it is. Control. Always control. I nod once. You're right. A pause. Then I lean in, just enough, my voice dropping. But I do get to decide what I'm willing to become to keep you alive. That lands. Hard. For the first time. Dion Vance hesitates. Not weakness. Not doubt. Just recalculating. Her gaze drags over my face like she's seeing me differently now. Not the woman from the rooftop. Not the woman from the boardroom. Something else. Something closer to her world than she ever expected. Careful, she murmurs, her voice softer now, but no less dangerous. That path doesn't let you walk back. I hold her gaze. Unshaken. I'm not trying to walk back. Silence. Then, slowly, a ghost of something curves at the corner of her lips. Not quite a smile. Not quite approval. But close. Then we're going to have a problem, she says quietly. My brow lifts slightly. Oh. Her eyes lock onto mine, dark and steady. Because now I have to decide, she continues, her voice dropping just enough to feel like a secret meant only for me. Whether to stop you. A beat. Her fingers shift slightly against the sheets. Or stand beside you. The air between us tightens. Breathless. Dangerous. Alive. I don't answer. I don't need to. Because we both already know. Either way, this doesn't end quietly. Chapter 19. Alignment of Wolves. The machines were quiet now. No frantic alarms. Just the low hum of the hospital pretending nothing volatile had ever happened. Dion Vance lay upright against her pillows. Pale. Wounded. But far from fragile. Her voice, hoarse from the tubes, carried the weight of someone who had been to death's door and returned with a plan. Tell me, she said. One word. Demand. Command. No softness, no hesitation. Vera stepped closer, careful not to crowd her. That instinct to tend, to soothe, it flickered, then died. Dion didn't need comfort. She needed clarity. You were hit intentionally, Vera said. Your driver is gone. The shooter approached after impact, tried to finish it. Dion's gaze sharpened, focusing, calculating. Her fingers curled around the hospital sheets. I remember the weight of it, the pause before the shot. I didn't see his face. Masked. But I didn't need to. You do now, Vera said. Your cousin is in custody. He won't breathe another free moment tonight. A slow, controlled exhale left Dion's lungs. Her eyes didn't widen, didn't falter. Just a shift. Awareness. Rage measured and precise. He thought I'd die, she murmured. He wanted me to know fear, helplessness. He won't hurt you again, Vera said. Your guards and my perimeter are already locked down. I've neutralized the external threats. Dion's lips curved faintly, not in amusement, but recognition. Then he's irrelevant. I deal with him when it matters, on my terms. Vera nodded. That's why I'm here. You don't need to be pulled into cleaning up while still recovering. I'll handle it. Dismantle his network, trace every connection, contain the fallout. You focus on reclaiming what's yours. Dion's gaze darkened, eyes piercing. And what do you want in return? Vera met her stare without flinching. Access. To your operations. To the infrastructure that half the city pretends doesn't exist. Dion studied her, quiet, measuring, calculating the weight of the offer. Slowly, she extended a hand firm, confident, unyielding. Vera didn't hesitate. She took it. Grip firm. Intent clear. Together, Vera said, voice soft but resolute, we could run any city. Dion didn't smile, but her gaze burned. That's exactly why I was interested in Wolfe K7. Vera's pulse shifted. The tool wasn't just tech, it was the key to understanding the reach of Dion's empire, and now Vera had a hand in that power. Work with me, Vera offered. Not a plea. An alignment. Dion held her gaze, weighing it, calculating the advantage. Then, slowly, the faintest nod. Not a lies, she said. Not yet. But I'll allow it. Two forces, choosing not to destroy each other. Not yet. But the air between them crackled with the knowledge that, together, nothing would be untouchable. Chapter 20. Rising from the Ashes. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. Machines hummed softly, monitoring life that was no longer fragile, only being sharpened into purpose. Dion sat upright in the chair by the window, her legs wrapped in a light blanket, her eyes scanning the city skyline. The sun was dipping low, painting everything gold and gray colors she'd once thought soft, now feeling like a map of her territory. Vera stood nearby, arms crossed, studying her. You shouldn't be moving yet, she said, voice firm but not questioning. I'm already moving, Dion replied, voice rough but steady. She flexed her fingers slowly, testing strength. I've waited for too long while someone assumed they could take what was mine. My cousin. He made the mistake of thinking I would remain vulnerable. Vera nodded. She understood. Not just the words, but the weight behind them. Dion wasn't just planning revenge, she was reclaiming control. By the time the sun had fully set, Dion was ready. The nurses and doctors gave quiet nods of respect as she slipped on a tailored coat over her hospital gown, her cane forgotten because she didn't need it, not for long. Every step radiated authority, recovery, and precision. I want him, Dion said simply. I want him to understand exactly who he tried to destroy. I don't need chaos tonight. I need lessons delivered with certainty. Vera's lips curved faintly. You'll have them, she said. I've handled the perimeter. He won't see anyone else coming, and you won't be interrupted. Your cousin won't get the luxury of luck or chance. Dion tilted her head, studying her. Then let's remind him why I'm the one who sets the rules. By midnight, the city lights blurred past the car windows. Dion's gaze never wavered from the street ahead, her hands resting lightly on her lap. Vera sat beside her, silently observing. Not all billionaires moved like this, some rushed, some panicked. Dion moved like a predator, deliberate, unhurried, and infinitely dangerous. When they reached the secure location where her cousin had been placed into custody, the calm in Dion's eyes didn't falter. The law had held him, yes, but tonight, she would impose her own reckoning. She stepped out, her coat brushing the asphalt, and for a moment, even the city seemed to pause, recognizing that Dion Vance had returned in full. Vera followed, feeling the weight of the power she'd agreed to step into. Tonight, they weren't just collaborators, they were a force the city had only begun to comprehend. Dion's voice was low, almost a whisper. Let him see who I really am. And in that moment, Vera realized something she hadn't fully grasped until now. Together, there was nothing in this city that could stand against them. Chapter 21. The Reckoning. The room was stark. Minimal light, shadows curling along the corners like smoke. Her cousin sat restrained, cuffs biting into his wrists. He hadn't seen her yet. Thought the law's holding cell was enough. Thought survival was still possible. Dion stepped in. Every step deliberate, measured, unyielding. The faint click of her heels on the concrete echoed like a drumbeat of finality. Vera followed silently, standing just behind, an observer, a witness to the inevitable. Her cousin's head snapped up. Panic flared. Dion. She raised a hand, and his voice died in his throat. Don't speak, she said. Her voice hoarse from the hospital, yet sharp as broken glass. You'll get one last chance to understand everything you thought you could take from me. He swallowed. The bravado he'd carried into his crime faltered. I. Do you even remember? She pressed, stepping closer. Her eyes bore into his like they could strip his secrets bare. Do you remember standing over me after you thought the crash would finish me? My driver, gone. And you, so confident. You smiled, didn't you? The color drained from his face. No, Vincent, she cut him off, calm, unflinching. You don't get to speak. You get to remember. She circled him slowly, predator-like. You chose to violate my trust, to cross a line no family should. You tried to kill me, and you did it knowing who I am. But you didn't account for the consequences. Her voice dropped lower, colder. You didn't account for me. He tried to look away, but there was nowhere to hide. Dion's eyes followed him, calculated, relentless. You watched me lie there helpless, and you thought, what? That fear would be enough to silence me? That the city would remember you instead of me? No, I didn't mean. Silence, she commanded. You will understand everything before your last breath. And you will understand why you never touched me. She stepped right in front of him. Her presence pressed against him without moving a muscle. He could smell her, iron, power, and a faint trace of the hospital antiseptic that now marked her survival. I am Dion Vance, she said slowly, deliberately, letting each word strike like a hammer. I am the one who decides who lives, who dies, who rises, and who falls. You thought your mask, your bullets, your planning could change that. His throat moved. Nothing came out. I do not forgive. I do not forget. I do not hesitate, she continued, letting the room absorb her words, each syllable a verdict. And yet, you're lucky. You see, most would never even know the hand that struck them until it's too late. You get to see it. You get to understand it. She paused, letting the silence press against him, suffocating. His chest rose and fell rapidly. Fear, pure, unadulterated fear. You are the last person who underestimated me, she whispered, leaning so close that he could feel the heat of her voice brush against his ear. And you will die knowing it. A single breath. A slow, deliberate exhale. Her hand gestured once. Vera's hired security, perfectly positioned, ensured the law wouldn't intervene. Justice was hers, and she delivered it on her terms. The cousin's eyes widened as the understanding hit him. Every choice, every step, every action that led to this room, it had been a trap. And the woman in front of him, broken in body but whole in power, had orchestrated it all. And when his last breath left him, he did so knowing exactly why. Dion straightened, voice cold, controlled. Let that be the lesson, she said. To anyone who thinks they can touch me, or mine. Vera exhaled softly beside her. You made it look effortless. Dion's gaze swept the room, deadly calm. It is effortless, when you understand the rules of the world you run. The city outside continued to breathe. Unaware. Untouched. For now. But Dion Vance? She was awake, alive, and entirely untouchable. Chapter 22: Confessions in the Shadows. A week had passed. The sterile whiteness of the hospital had softened into familiarity. Machines hummed their rhythmic vigil, but Dion's world no longer revolved around monitors. She moved carefully now, cane in hand, a concession Vera had insisted upon, despite Dion's stubbornness. Each step was deliberate, measured, the kind of precision that came from someone who had survived death and decided the world would bend to her terms. Vera sat across from her, reviewing surveillance reports on a sleek tablet, her posture relaxed but alert. The energy between them was quiet, charged. Dion shifted in her chair, letting the cane bear some weight, then studied Vera. The bruises and stitches from the crash had faded, but the fire behind Dion's eyes had only grown. "I want Wolfe K7, Dion said softly, letting the words land like a feather weighted with steel. Vera looked up, brow raised. "I figured as much. That's why you reached out to me business first, right?" Dion's lips curved faintly, teasing, dangerous. "Wrong." Vera's eyes narrowed, curious now, dangerous too, because she knew there were levels to Dion Vance, and none of them were ordinary. "I didn't approach you for Wolfe K7, Dion continued. Her voice dropped lower, intimate, almost a confession. I approached you because of you." Vera's pulse hitched ever so slightly. The calm, collected billionaire in front of her had been thrown a curveball by the sheer audacity of that admission. Dion leaned on her cane lightly, tilting her head to study Vera's reaction. "I watched you that day at the exhibit. I knew who I was dealing with." Vera blinked, caught. She'd expected everything from Dion Vance, calculations, strategy, lethal charm, but not this. Not vulnerability mixed with danger. "You weren't afraid of me," Dion said, softer now, almost tender. "And that fascinated me. It pulled me in, Vera. Long before Wolfe K7, long before power, before anything else." Vera's fingers flexed, tightening slightly on her tablet. She looked away for a moment, pretending to scan the reports, but the warmth creeping into her chest betrayed her. "You fell for me?" Vera asked quietly, almost not daring to voice it. Dion's gaze held hers, unwavering. "I did. Because you see me, all of me, and you don't flinch. You don't pretend. You just exist. Right there. Fearless." A long pause stretched between them. The kind of silence that hums louder than any conversation. Vera set the tablet aside. Slowly, carefully, she allowed herself to lean forward, her eyes locked with Dion's. "You have no idea how dangerous that is," she whispered, a smirk tugging at her lips despite herself. Dion chuckled softly, a low sound that carried warmth and ice at once. "I'm Dion Vance. Danger is my language. You just speak it fluently." Their lips met, soft at first, and then it deepened. Like the 6 months they have been flirting with not just each other, but danger too. And for the first time since the hospital, the world outside, the chaos, the city, the enemies, felt distant. All that mattered was the woman across from her. Not a boardroom. Not surveillance. Not a stolen moment of power. Just her. And perhaps, for the first time in both their lives, neither of them was afraid. Chapter 23: Wolves in Command. The city had learned a new rhythm. Every street, every block, every invisible thread of commerce and information pulsed in tandem with Dion and Vera's will. They had taken Wolfe K7, the AI marvel Vera had built, and integrated it into the veins of the metropolis like a neural network controlling its heartbeat. Nothing moved without their say-so. Traffic, utilities, communications, even law enforcement patterns bent subtly, imperceptibly, to their algorithms. Vera stood in the operations room, dark screens reflecting her face, hands dancing across hollow panels. Every alert ping, every movement across the cityscape, fed into Wolfe K7 instantly. You've recalibrated the surveillance grid again? Dion asked, leaning against the console behind her, still using her cane lightly but moving with a predator's grace. Vera didn't look up. Optimized. Every camera, every sensor. It predicts patterns before they happen. If anyone tries to challenge us, we'll know before they know themselves. Dion's lips curved faintly, approving. Good. I want no surprises. Half the city thinks they can operate in shadows. Wolfe K7 just put their shadows on display. Vera finally turned to her, the smirk on her lips sharp and electric. It's more than that. It can manage logistics, finance flows, contracts that don't exist on paper, even track threats before they happen. We can run the city silently, perfectly, efficiently, ruthlessly if we need to. Dion's eyes glittered with satisfaction. I like the sound of that. She tapped the cane lightly against the floor. And now, we enforce it. From the room, Dion could watch the city through Wolfe K7's augmented view, a network of moving, breathing lives, all connected to the commands they were giving silently. Guards, logistics, every minor power shift, it all flowed through their system, and the city responded. Did you ever think it would come to this? Vera asked softly, leaning beside her. Not exactly, Dion admitted, her voice low, yet unmistakably commanding. But I knew if I found someone like you, someone who could match my pace, think ahead, challenge me, we could move mountains together. And cities, Vera added, letting a laugh escape, soft, intimate, electric. Yes, Dion said, voice rough from recovering strength but filled with certainty. Cities. Entire systems. Nothing moves without our say-so. Half the city doesn't even realize who's steering it. Vera's fingers hovered over the panels, ready to execute their next move. And if anyone tries? Dion's eyes darkened, a storm coiling beneath her gaze. They learn why Dion Vance and Vera Sterling don't flinch. Ever. They watch the city pulse below them like a living organism, every heartbeat aligned with their own. Every network, every asset, every silent whisper of power under their control. And in that quiet, lethal dominance, Wolfe K7 was more than just a tool. It was the bridge between their intellect, their ambition, their power, and the city itself. Vera let her gaze meet Dion's. We're unstoppable, she whispered. Dion smiled faintly, cane tapping once against the floor. Not just unstoppable. Untouchable. And together, they didn't just run the city, they owned it, in ways no one could ever imagine, and in ways only they understood. Chapter 24. Quiet between the storms. The operations room was dark, lit only by the glow of Wolfe K7 screens. The city moved beneath them, unaware, obedient, quiet, perfectly synced to their control. Vera leaned back in her chair, finally letting her hands rest. The adrenaline from the day's planning and coordination was still thrumming in her veins. Dion, cane set aside for the moment, moved toward her. The click of her heels was soft, deliberate, like a predator closing in, but not to strike. You're relentless, Vera said, voice low, teasing, but with a tremor of something more. Dion's eyes met hers, dark and unreadable, and a faint smirk tugged at the corner of her lips. You like it? Vera felt heat pool in her chest. She should have looked away, should have maintained control, but she couldn't. She hadn't felt this drawn to anyone, not like this, not even in the boardroom, not even in strategy meetings. Dion closed the distance slowly, careful, testing. Do you know what it's like, she murmured, her voice hoarse from her recovery, to watch someone survive what should have killed them, and want them anyway? Vera swallowed hard. Her fingers tightened on the edge of the console. I think I have a clue. A faint chuckle escaped Dion, soft and dangerous. Good. Then maybe you'll understand why I'm here. She reached out, tracing the back of Vera's hand with her fingers, slow, deliberate, igniting a spark that ran straight to the bone. Vera shivered, heart hammering, but made no move to pull away. "You're fearless," Vera whispered, voice barely audible. "Not just in business, not just in war, in everything." Dion leaned closer, her face just inches from Vera's, the heat of her presence undeniable. "And you weren't afraid of me. Not even a little. That's why I fell. Not for your power, not for Wolfe K7, for you." Vera's breath hitched. The city, the empire, the strategy, they all fell away, leaving only the two of them in this charged space. Slowly, intentionally, Dion pressed her lips to Vera's, a light, testing kiss. Fierce in its subtlety. A kiss that promised fire, control, and surrender all at once. Vera responded before she realized she had hands brushing Dion's shoulders, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, a dangerous dance of strength and vulnerability, of mutual respect and burning desire. When they finally parted, barely, both were breathing heavier than usual. Dion's gray eyes searched Vera's, the intensity still smoldering. "You're mine," Dion whispered, rough, determined, almost a vow. "And you're unstoppable," Vera said, voice trembling slightly, heart racing. Dion smirked, pressing her forehead to Vera's. "We're a storm together. Unstoppable, untouchable, and just beginning." For a moment, neither of them moved. The city outside throbbed under their control, Wolfe K7 pulsing like a heartbeat. Inside, in that quiet, dangerous space, power and intimacy collided. And for the first time since they met, Vera realized Dion wasn't just a force to reckon with in business, in strategy, in city domination. She was a force in everything else, too. Chapter 25. Wolfe K7 in motion. The city pulsed beneath them like a living organism, unaware it was dancing to their rhythm. Vera and Dion stood side by side in the operations room, eyes fixed on the web of screens sprawling before them. Every movement, every flow of money, every shadowy corner of the city, they could see it, predict it, control it. Wolfe K7 wasn't just software, it was an extension of their minds, a second set of eyes, hands, and instincts that allowed them to orchestrate chaos and order in perfect balance. "Every network, every asset, every threat," Vera said, fingers flying across the holographic interface, feeds into K7. "It learns faster than any human, adapts faster than any team. By the time someone thinks they're moving against us, Wolfe K7 already has the counters in motion." Dion's eyes glimmered, gray pools of calm fury. "I want to see it in action. Let's test it." Vera tapped a few sequences. Wolfe K7 flared across the screens, traffic rerouted, financial transactions shifted, communications monitored, and potential rival movements predicted in real time. Notifications pinged, green for secured, amber for under observation, red for neutralized threats. "Watch this," Vera whispered. With a few precise gestures, she simulated a citywide coordinated robbery by a syndicate that thought they could challenge Dion's territory. Within moments, Wolfe K7 intercepted communications, alerted the security teams, cut off escape routes, and traced every asset back to the origin, without a single human moving outside their designated posts. Dion leaned on her cane, watching, a slow smile tugging at her lips. "Not bad. Faster than anything I've ever seen. Precise. Ruthless. Like us." Vera turned to her, heart racing. "It's our ruthlessness, channeled through it. We can operate on levels no one else even realizes exist." Dion stepped closer, brushing a hand along Vera's arm. "And Wolfe K7 doesn't just protect the Empire, it protects us. Every move we make is calculated, every threat anticipated. The city obeys because it must, and no one dares question it." Vera caught Dion's gaze, fierce and unflinching. "You realize we just became untouchable," she said, a shiver running down her spine. Dion's smirk was low, dangerous. Untouchable, unstoppable, and together unstoppable in ways even the city itself doesn't understand yet. Outside, the city throbbed, alive, responsive, orchestrated. A traffic jam dissolved before it formed, a financial leak rerouted instantly, a rival syndicate intercepted before their plans could hatch. Every heartbeat of the metropolis bent subtly to their will. Vera felt the warmth of Dion's presence behind her, the confidence radiating from her like heat. And Wolfe K7, she said softly, is just the beginning. Dion pressed her hand to Vera's back, a fleeting touch that sent fire up her spine. Everything else, she whispered. Vera exhaled, pulse racing. Everything else falls into place. And in that room, with the city at their fingertips and power humming like a living heartbeat, they understood one truth. No one could touch them, not the streets, not the law, not anyone foolish enough to think they could challenge the wolves in command. Together, they didn't just run the city, they were the city. And Wolfe K7 was their claws, their eyes, and their unerring instinct, moving with them, always one step ahead. Epilogue, after the storm. The city sprawled beneath them like a breath caught in the throat of night, alive, shimmering, ceaseless, but it no longer demanded anything of them. For once, it wasn't screaming for control or begging for order. It simply was. A quiet symphony of distant sirens, pulsing neon, and the gentle exhale of traffic winding down. And high above it all, suspended between sky and memory, the penthouse held its breath. Dion sat at the edge of the couch, barefoot, cane abandoned beside the ottoman like a weapon laid down after war. Her body still bore the weight of survival, the stiffness in her leg, the catch in her breath when she moved too fast, but none of it mattered here. Not tonight. Not with her. Vera moved close, barefoot steps silent on the heated floor. She tucked a strand of hair behind Dion's ear, dark, loose, cascading like a secret let free, and her fingers didn't pull away. They lingered, brushing over the curve of Dion's ear, tracing the fine tendons of her neck, as if memorizing the rhythm of her pulse. It was a gesture so tender it ached, the kind born not of passion alone, but of reverence. There were no alarms. No red lights flashing across holoscreens. No encrypted messages demanding attention. No enemies to dismantle. No empires to defend. Just the low hum of climate control, the flicker of candlelight dancing across Vera's face, and the scent of rain lingering in the air from the storm that had cracked the night sky hours before. This was the first silence they'd allowed themselves in months. Dion exhaled, long and slow, like she was releasing a lifetime of tension through her lips. You know, she said, voice still slightly rough from days in hospital beds and sleepless nights, yet warm as embers. I could get used to this. Vera turned, eyebrow arched, smile playing at the edge of her mouth, a smirk that used to cut across boardrooms like a blade. Now it softened, curled inward, just for her. To the quiet, she asked, teasing. Or to me? Dion's grin was slow, devastating. It started in her eyes, those deep, knowing eyes that had seen ruin and risen from it, and curled into something almost shy. Both, she murmured. Then, quieter, you're everything I didn't know I was missing. Fearless. Unflinching. But soft in the right places. When you think no one's watching, when you let your guard down just enough to let me in. Vera's breath hitched. She leaned forward, letting her hands settle on Dion's shoulders, thumbs brushing the delicate collarbone beneath thin fabric. Soft, she laughed, but there was something fragile in it now, a crack beneath the armor. I've been called many things. But never that. You should be, Dion whispered. She lifted a hand, trembling only slightly, and cupped Vera's cheek. You're softer than you think. And stronger because of it. For a moment, Vera didn't answer. Her eyes, sharp, commanding, always calculating, flickered, uncertain. Then she let it drop. The mask. The persona. The woman who built an empire on silence and control. In its place, someone trembling, real, afraid of how much she wanted this her. I spent my life building walls, she admitted, voice raw, almost broken. I thought power was control, was distance, was never needing anyone. Her fingers trailed down Dion's neck. Then you came along and looked at me like I wasn't some untouchable force. Like I was yours. She swallowed. And I realized. I am. That without you beside me, power is just noise. A hollow throne. Dion's eyes shimmered, not with tears, but with something fiercer. A love that had fought through fire to exist. She leaned in, pressing her forehead to Vera's, their breaths mingling, uneven, shared. I fell for you the day I saw you unafraid, she whispered. Standing in the eye of the storm, giving orders like thunder, calm as death. But it wasn't your strength that ruined me. She smiled, small, intimate. It was the way your hand shook when I got hurt. The way you cried in the hospital corridor, thinking I couldn't hear. That's when I knew. This, us, was different. Nothing could touch us. But this. She exhaled, fingers threading into Vera's hair. This is sacred. This is ours. Vera closed her eyes, leaning into the touch like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. And then, slowly, she kissed her. Not like conquerors. Not like warriors. But like women who had finally come home. It was soft at first, a brush of lips, a sigh, a question. But then Dion deepened it, one hand cradling the back of Vera's neck, pulling her closer, as if trying to erase the space between them entirely. The kiss grew slow, smoldering, electric, not with urgency, but with intent. With promise. With the quiet understanding that this wasn't escape. This was reclamation. Vera's hands slid beneath Dion's shirt, fingers tracing the ridges of bullet scar, a story, a battle survived. And instead of flinching, Dion arched into her, offering herself. Take me. All of me. Even the broken parts. The world outside still turned. Wolfe K7 hummed in the background, a silent sentinel managing the city's flow. But here, in this room, time had stopped. There were no strategies. No enemies. No past regrets or future wars. Just the warmth of skin on skin. The quiet creak of the couch. The sound of Vera's breath catching when Dion kissed her neck, right where her pulse fluttered fast, alive, hers. Dion pulled back just enough to look at her. We're unstoppable, she whispered. Vera's eyes glistened. She pressed her palm flat against Dion's chest, feeling the steady beat beneath, strong, alive, relentless. And untouchable, she breathed. Then she kissed her again, deeper this time, as if she could pour every unspoken word into that single moment. I love you. I need you. I'm not letting go. And outside, the city pulsed on, unaware that its rulers had finally surrendered, not to weakness, but to something far more powerful. To love. To trust. To the quiet, fierce, unbreakable truth that sometimes, after the storm, the greatest victory isn't control. It's letting go. It's coming home. It's her. It's them. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe and like this video and follow me for more stories. You are always welcome here, and leave me a comment or a thumbs up, just letting me know if you like the story and would like more, or is there perhaps an idea that you would like to share or let me write for you.